You are listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Join me, Adele, as I uncover the knowledge, inspiration, and empowerment the psychic world has to offer. Let's begin.
Go! Soulmates and twin flames, everybody. I get people ring me up all of the time. They're having problems with a partner. There's a very deep soul connection between them and this partner, right? And literally, they always seem to come back to this partner. Now, people might say that it could just be a karmic relationship because all relationships are karmic, right? But with soulmates and twin flames, there is always a very, very deep spiritual and emotional connection. And it's like I always say to people, well, you always come back together and you always find each other. Whereas the difference is between karmic relationships that only ever meant to last a certain length of time.
You know
so
what?
The thing
I'm going to hold you there, Claire, because you know what? I'm laughing to myself because we went 3, 2, 1. We're going live on our podcast. Claire was off to a flying start. I haven't even introduced Claire yet. People are probably thinking, who is this lady talking on the podcast? It's Claire Wallace, everybody, on Ask the Answers podcast.
Hello,
Brilliant.
hi.
You
Yes.
do make me laugh. You're so enthusiastic. You were raring to go.
Yes, I am raring to go, right?
Brilliant.
And you know what? Something. I mean, I've spoken to clients about soulmates and twin flames, and it literally is just a case of, well, I've met this guy, we always seem to come back together. I've never seen him for about 20 odd years. We come back together, then we split up again. And it's a really passionate and deep connection. I've tried to move on. I can't. He's there in the back of my mind. It can also be the same for men, right? It doesn't always necessarily mean that it's always the woman, because evidently it can always happen in the man's case where he meets a woman and for some reason they just keep getting drawn together over and over again, right? And they just can't understand, right? Especially with like sort of twin flame connections, because they do seem to trigger a lot of like sort of shadow work and sort of things that they need to like sort of bring up. So it's a case of you have emotional unavailability in relationships. They can be reflecting back to you, because relationships do tend, like especially of the twin flame nature, obviously like sort of reflect our wounds. And this is what I say to people, with twin flame relationships, because they're so intense, right? And also they're becoming a lot more common now with the fact that we're coming out of 3D and going into 5D, that they do tend to bring up the good, the bad, and the ugly,
The twin flame is more lessons than a soulmate.
Oh, you know what? Some of the worst times, people always think that once they get into a soulmate or a twin flame connection, that it's all romance, chocolates, walking on air. And yes, Adele, it can be the most wonderful connection you can ever have with another human being, right? But the thing is, especially with a twin flame connection, there's always obstacles. Either one or both parties are married, or it can be they're from a different culture, a different religion, live on the other side of the world, or they can even be, believe it or not, it's a case of a woman meets another woman who is, normally she identifies as heterosexual, and lo and behold, she can meet a woman and fall madly in love and think, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I'm not gay, I'm not bisexual, but she's so drawn to this woman because it's not of, it's like, if you look at the concept of like the earthly existence, right? like married. Society wants us to be married. Man and woman need to be married, and also it's a case of what is marriage? It is an agreement. It is a 3D contract, right? I know we marry for love. Some people do, some people don't. It depends on the couple. But literally, what is the concept of marriage, right? It is in the twin flame concept. It is the union of two souls, right? But on Earth, it is actually a legal contract, right? So the thing is, yeah, it's a case of, right, using this as an example. When Joanne Woodward met Paul Newman, he was married to somebody else and had 3 children. So she said, well, look, I'm not going to go there. You're a married man. But they started hanging around together. And evidently, because the relationship and the connection between Joanne and Paul was 5D, it took him out of the 3D. So he ended up divorcing his wife and felt guilty about it for years, and married Joanne and had another 3 children to her because they were twin flames, and these connections can make you do some of the things that are normally out of character, right? So,
It's
no,
interesting because I'm sure lots of people have been watching Love Island recently, and you know that you're talking about the connection that you have with somebody. That intense feeling. There's something about them, whether it's like you said, a twin flame, a soulmate, or just a regular relationship. But there was a point in the Love Island where the guy said, this girl is beautiful. She ticks all the boxes. Why can't I have that connection? Why don't I have that feeling that I really want to be with her or fancy her? There was just something that was missing, and it was that connection. He said everything else, she's beautiful, she ticks all the boxes, she's kind, she's lovely, all of this, but that there wasn't that connection. And
yeah.
he was almost frustrated. He was like, I want there to be a connection because she's perfect, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah, well, that's it. The thing is, it's like if the connection isn't there, it's not there, right? And the thing is with twin flames, another thing as well is normally people will say, well, I normally go for like dark-haired guys. Or a man might say, well, something, I normally go for a busty blonde, but I've met this woman. She's petite and she's got long dark hair, and she's just somebody I wouldn't normally go for.
Yeah.
And that is very, very common,
Yeah.
because the thing is, it is of the soul. It's nothing to do with the gender. It's nothing to do with the outside external circumstances. If you think about it in 5D, the soul only knows unconditional love, Adele. It doesn't care whether that soul is married and got 6 children, or whether they're black, white, yellow, or whatever the colour of the skin, or evidently, they don't care about the sex, they don't care about the external circumstances, right? All the soul knows is pure love. And
Yeah.
that is exactly what we go back to when we pass, right? So this is what I say to people when they meet their twin, is let go of any expectations,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Because there could be anybody, right? Literally, and people have got to have a certain level of soul evolution in order to be able to draw that twin flame towards them, because not everybody is ready for the intensity of these type of connections and the type of obstacles that they bring in. I mean, it does depend on the karma of the couple, of course, but the thing is, I mean, everybody is all on their own individual journey, and there is a lot of people out there who are quite happy in either karmic relationships, because all relationships are very karmic, right? Or they're in just a nice soulmate connection, which is not as intensive as a twin flame connection, right? But evidently, anybody can be your soulmate. You can have a best friend who's a soulmate. You can have your mum as your soulmate. You can have your sister as a soulmate. You can have your brother as a soulmate. But don't it's about letting go of that expectation, And the thing is, with soulmates, they do tend to be generally testing, but easier relationships. Not everybody is ready, but more people now are finding that as we are going from the 3D into 5D, that they're now reconnecting with their twin flames. And then the twin flames generally go straight into separation. It always happens. There's always the runner and the chaser dynamic, right? Generally, it's the woman chasing after the divine masculine. Not always, because it has actually been the divine masculine chasing after the divine feminine, right? Because literally, twin flames have got a purpose of lifting the energy of the 5D earth and getting it into 5D. It's not like your typical boy meets girl love story. There is a purpose for twin flames. So that is why people are now reconnecting with their twins and saying, do you know what? I've met him or I've met her, and there's been the connection is absolutely blew me away. But now they've disappeared, and evidently they've been getting very frustrated. So what I say to people, because literally, if you can imagine, right, that there is a mirror soul out there, the same as Adele Cobain, right, in divine masculine form or whatever, right? So forget about the body, forget about the bits. That is an illusion, right? That literally these connections rake up everything that is meant to be released, and it is coming in on a very, very karmic level. So the thing is, literally, twin flames find that it might be a case of, right, boy meets girl, boy like runs away, can't stand the intensity of the connection, and then he goes away and meets a girl, gets married, has a couple of kids, then reconnects with this other girl 25 years later. By that time, she's divorced but twice, and she's had 6 kids. And then there's a bit of separation for a little bit, and then they always come back to each other. And eventually they do get the happier ending. It doesn't always happen like that. They may reconnect again in this lifetime, or they may reconnect in the next lifetime. It really depends on the karma of the couple, but literally most twin flames meet each other right when it's their last lifetime on the earth plane. Right? How that happens, who it might happen, it doesn't always. But then again, there's some twin flames are quite happy, in the relationships that they've got with other people, but they're divinely working towards union at some point. So
have you been in any twin flames yourself?
I do have a twin flame. I do know how my twin flame is, because again, there can also be, it is not common, it is quite common for twin flames to also have a huge age gap. Right? So my twin flame, there is a 16 years age gap. Right? But evidently, because I've been going away and working on my shadow, and we are in separation, but I am aware that I do have a twin flame, right?
I mean, now, are they younger or older?
Younger. And I've I've just put it up to the universe, Adele, right? I've said, okay, evidently I have got this connection, and at the moment he is listening to ego, and this person is running away from ego. It evidently isn't the right time, right? So evidently I know I am on my own individual journey, and I've got to go away, and that means that I've got to go away and do all this work on me, right? But whatever work I do on me, because he is my divine masculine, will also benefit him as well. So this is what I say to people: the more you can release and surrender, the more that spirit, your spiritual support team, can say, right, okay, when the time is right, we're going to bring these two souls together, because they have got a divine purpose together.
And I think that's with anything in life, isn't it, as well? Whether it's a twin flame, soulmate, when you're so emotionally involved in a situation, sometimes you do need to take that time out, walk away, have a separation, whether it's a job, whether it's, a love interest, whether it's a friend. Sometimes we just get so close together that we can't see the woods from the trees and it's just battling against one another. Take a step back, detach emotionally, and sometimes, more reason will come, you'll understand things a bit clearer.
Yeah. But no, I mean, Adele, I mean, it literally is. It is it's a very, very powerful connection between two human souls that literally, it's just an unbreakable bond.
Yeah.
And it's a case of like, some twin flame couples have come to me and they've actually said, well, it's been 5 years or 10 years, because bear in mind, in spirit, there is no time. When am I going to meet my twin flame? When? We work on time, Adele, because in linear time and on the earth time because we are in this human existence, we do have to work by time, especially, tomorrow, or yes, I've got a dental appointment at 1:30, or we work on time. But when it comes to spiritual connections or anything esoteric or spiritual, there is no time, because in the world of spirit and on the divine connection, because we are connected to source, there is no such thing as time. And that is what, people can't seem to get their head around. Well, it's been 20 years. And I can't get this person out of my mind. And I've had other relationships, and I have tried to move on, but Claire they are still there at the back of my head. And it's like, yeah, because evidently as well, it's because of what a lot of twin flames find, that even though separation on a physical level is an illusion, we connect with our twin flames on the astral plane. There's not, just because your twin flame like lives in Brazil and he's married and he's got 7 kids, doesn't mean that you still can't meet him on the astral every night. Because it's the soul connection. So I'll say to them, yes, okay, but you can never really be separated from your twin if you are meeting them on the on the astral plane every night.
And that's what's nice about having a psychic reading, is that if you're not too sure how that person is feeling towards you, or sometimes people question like, oh, have they thought about me? They ended it, and I haven't seen them since. I can't get them out my mind, but you want to know what's going on with them. Are they thinking about me? Have they cut ties with me? Are they still wanting to get back together? And I think just filling in those gaps and the voids that person might feel, it can put somebody at ease, with a psychic reading, with you tuning into that person for them.
Yeah. I mean, literally, I'll always say, you can never even sever the cords between you and your twin if there's pure love. I mean, yes, you can dissolve the negativity between you and them, because there's nothing stopping you from like working out with them on a distance and cutting and dissolving cords or whatever. But you can never ever sever the love connection between you and him or who, or whoever, because it's just like it is a soul connection. It's a very, very deep soul connection. And yes, life might take you off in different directions, Adele, but there's always going to be that bond there. I mean, soulmates are easier because evidently, yes, there's lessons, and we're always with people until lessons are learned. And then sometimes soulmates can go off, but again, with soulmates, they always come back and find each other. But the energy seems to be a lot easier than what a twin flame connection is. And also, you've got your karmics, which is basically a karmic relationship, which people can also come back with. So, well, I've been with this guy, and he's been, or it can be a woman, and there's been a lot of abuse and all kinds of stuff. And I always say to people that, 9 times out of 10, if they are experiencing any type of abusive situation, then it is a karmic connection, because a twin flame would not resort to anything like on an abusive level, because they can't. It's just love, you know. And normally with karmic relationships, that's why there's that many divorces now, because, you know, people are like married for like 5-6 years, and then all of a sudden you find all of a sudden they've just parted company, you know, because the, you know, relationships are only ever meant to last as long as they're meant to, you know. And also it's a case of where lessons need to be learnt, and also it's all to do with our own individual soul evolution as well as that person as well, you know.
Somebody is too close to home and they don't know what the lesson is, and they're going around in circles. As a psychic, is that something you can tell them what the lesson is? Is that they come to
Well, the thing is, it's a case of it doesn't really matter what the lesson is. That lesson is going to keep coming up and up and up all the time until the lesson is learned. It wouldn't matter who they're in a relationship with, because evidently we draw people into our lives in order to learn lessons, and also remember that we are learning lessons from them as well. So it doesn't really matter, right, who is, you know, what the lesson is, right? That, you know, it's like if people come to me and say, well, you know something, I've got a pattern of attracting the wrong type of person towards me, then what I would say to that person is forget about the person, because if you finish with that person tomorrow and you evidently have not released that pattern, right, whatever that pattern is, right,
Yeah.
of why you are attracting that person in the first place, then what they're going to find is that they're going to meet a different person with exactly the
Yeah.
same traits,
Yeah.
because it's not really about the person. It's just basically they are a mirror, right, for us,
Yeah.
right? And it's a case of, if you want to change the pattern, then you need to go away and you need to change something that is within yourself that
Yeah.
is attracting that person. It's like attracts like, it's like law of attraction. It's a case of whatever you focus on, you get more of. So the thing is, if you want you want a man that's, or a woman that's kind, loving, gentle, right, and you really put that out there to the universe, and you see yourself in a kind, loving, gentle connection, then eventually at some point the universe is going to deliver more of what you focus on, whether that is positive or negative. So if you want to change the script of your play of life, then that is what you have to do on a soul level. It's nothing to do with the person,
Yeah.
because they are just playing a part for you in your play of life. You know, if you go back to what Shakespeare said, the whole world is a stage and the people in it have got the entrances and exits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like you want to change what you were attracting in, change the script, you know? So, yes, this is what I try to put across to clients, that you are the master of your own reality. You
Yeah.
can change what you are attracting. It's like if you've got a person, right, who is always lovely, you know, who is on a high vibration, and they've raised their vibration, they cannot be around people who are on a low vibration, right? That's why, you know, I'm using this as an example, but, you know, people who are alcoholics or have some kind of addiction
Yeah.
can only ever be friends or be in a circle with other people who are exactly the same as them.
Yeah.
And that also goes for the positive people as well. You know, it's like yourself.
Yeah.
You've been involved in the modelling industry. I've been involved in the world of modelling as well. And the thing is, you normally find that women in that type of community can only ever be friends, not always, they can, unless they've got people outside of that community that accept what they do, right?
Hmm.
But who have got that mentality of what it's actually to be like in that community. So that's where you have got the connection there. It's just it's how things are.
Yeah.
Like attracts like,
No,
and that
okay.
is regardless of positive or negative. So if you are keep attracting the same type of person over and over again, whether you're consciously putting it out there, then that is what you're going to attract.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, no,
because we're
absolutely. There was something that you said, well, at the beginning of the podcast, which about expectations is when we come to sort of things like manifestation, and we say what we want on paper. So many people are very specific, and probably more. I don't know. Early on, maybe when you're younger, you say you want a tall, dark, handsome, athletic guy with green eyes, and you're really specific. And it's funny because I always laugh at my husband, because my husband would say, "I bet you didn't ask for a 20-stone ginger man, did you, on your manifestation?" And we laugh and we joke. I went, "No, probably not."
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make here is that people have got to understand that on a soul level, it does not matter whether of gender, of racial, like sort of, whatever race or culture that person is from,
It's a
or
connect.
whether it's the soul,
Yeah.
right? It's like, or even gender. Like for example, it's very common, like I said, for people now, to be in relationships with somebody of the same sex,
Hmm. Hmm.
because it's got nothing to do with the bits. It's to do with the soul
Yeah.
connection,
Does that come
so
with
that's.
age? Does that come with maturity, or do you think you can have that early on in sort of your early years of dating?
Well, in all honesty, I mean, it's because of what's going on in the world, because evidently because of the world that we are in, which is dominated by science and evidence-based facts and materialism, and also the social conditioning,
Hmm.
right? That by we must be married, man and woman is still accepted. I mean, I know now we are in the 21st century, where there is a lot more acceptance on like same-sex marriages and same-sex relationships, and also you've got more acceptance of people who are transgender. There is a lot more acceptance now, right, than what there was, say, 30 or 40 years ago, right? And people now are embracing who they are, right? So evidently it's a case of, well, now people can be a lot more open, and they can be a lot more accepting of things on a soul level than what they could have been like 40 years ago, when it was dictated to us by societal conditioning.
Yeah.
Well, we must be in a relationship with like somebody of the opposite sex, or we must it's just all to do with society, you know um
Easier or
and
harder now that
also
we've got more
it's like,
choice?
I think a lot of people say, well, I've got this attraction, and I'm scared of it because it's not what I have been conditioned
Mm.
to have like of like sort of like for what it would have been accepted. And that is also extremely common when it comes to twin flames, because people always do what they think they should be doing, as
Mm.
opposed to what they should be doing on a soul or a heart-centered level.
So does that make it easier or harder that they've got more options now and more choice?
Well, I think we've always had it anyway, Adele, to be quite fair. But
Mm.
again, it's to do with society and the world that we live in. Evidently now, I mean, it's perfectly accepted now if somebody is in like a same-sex marriage, which it never used to be many,
Mm.
many years ago, right? It is, and also as well, even on like a level where at one point it was not accepted for even a man and woman to live together,
Mm.
without being married. All that's out the window because now we've got civil partnerships and we've got all these different types of relationships now,
Mm.
right? So I
But
could
yet,
sit here.
why do some people still find it so hard to meet somebody? There's a friend of mine, the most loveliest girl you could meet. She'd make an amazing mom. She's a lovely, person. She's had loads of challenging relationships. She's very open minded, down to earth. And she's now, coming into her 30s, and she still hasn't met that person. And she's like, I
Yeah,
just don't know why. I just don't seem to meet anybody.
yeah. Well, maybe that, what you've got to bear in mind is that when we are in that lovely soul realm, right, which we call the afterlife, we actually sit down and we actually plan our incarnations.
Hmm.
And we also plan out the challenges that we are going to have in that incarnation as well, right? It may be that she's decided that maybe this time round she isn't going to meet anybody, or it might be a case of, later on down the line that she actually does meet somebody.
Mm.
Let's face it, we're all on a journey, Adele.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we also plan everything. People might say, well, hang on a minute, right? How can somebody plan that they're going to have, like, say, just for example, that they're going to have a tragic accident at the end of 25, at the age of 25, and that, the husband is going to go out and rape and murder, right, the children that they've had.
Hmm.
You know what? It's all to do with soul lessons, because in the spiritual realms, remember, there is just love, right? We sit down and say, right, okay, fair enough, right? And our guides do actually come in and say, well, I think you should maybe like sort of calm down on that little bit, because we'll only ever get what our soul can handle, right? So maybe this is her lesson. This is one of her challenges and one of her tests, that she isn't going to meet somebody, right? It's got nothing to do with her character. It's just a challenge or a test for her. But
So
in spirit, she's already got a perfect partner.
yeah. So I mean, when there is so much evil in the world, surely people don't choose that in the spirit world, that they're going to come, like you just mentioned there, and commit crimes and do some awful things. Surely that's not the case.
Well, yeah, but if you're thinking from a 3D concept, it's like, why? I mean, I would never go out and say this to anybody,
Mm.
right? But for example, about the child murders,
Mm.
and I would never, never dream as an individual to say to that person, well, something, that soul is planned that in the afterlife, and that is how they have actually planned out that they were going to have that challenge, because on a 3D concept, right, it is difficult for us to get our head around that. But on
Mm.
a spiritual concept, if you can imagine that we just come into this realm to learn lessons, right? And this is really what we are actually living in the matrix, right? And we can see that we're living in the matrix. And it is very, very easy to say, well, I have got a lot of respect for people who do actually go through those challenges, because the more advanced the soul is, the harder the lessons that they face.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why, if you speak to a lot of mediums, right, some of the mediums have had horrendous lifetimes, Adele.
Mm.
But then again, from a soul perspective, how can I have discernment and empathy with my clients if I have never had, faced any sort of challenge in my life?
Mm. Mm.
So the thing is, we do on a, people might say, well, does that not take a lot of time and spirit to plan everything? But there is no time and spirit.
Yeah.
And yes, we do have a lot of guidance off our spirit team that, you know, sometimes we can get a bit carried away. Yes, I'm going to have cancer at the age of 35 and I'm going to have a hysterectomy and I'm going to be in a car crash, you know, by the age of 52 and I'm going to be in hospital fighting for my life. And people can be thinking, well, hang on a minute, you mean to tell me all the horrible stuff I've had in life, right, that I've actually sat down and planned this, in, you know, before I incarnated and before I was born? Yes, you did, because your soul needed to learn lessons and your soul needed to evolve. But we do actually get, you know, our guides do actually say, well, come on, Adele, you know, trying to commit, just for example, you tried to do this, you know, when you were 35. Do you not think that that's a bit extreme? So we do actually try and get talked out of it by our guides. You know, they do try and say, well, you know, maybe things could be a little bit easier for you there,
I was about to
right?
say, I'm sure there's lots of people listening going, I just want to choose a nice, easy life.
But yeah, but then again, if we did have a nice, easy life, Adele, how would we learn? How would we be challenged and wouldn't it get boring?
Well, some might disagree and think, actually, I'm happy and content, and actually, I don't want the
Yeah, but
drama.
we wouldn't be challenged because we are all here on this earth, whether we like it or not. We have chosen to come back on this earth plane, whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah.
We are here and we are alive on this earth because we need to evolve as souls.
So
It's
when,
like coming back to school. It's like you go to school, right? This is a school that we come to. We come to this earth school in order to learn lessons. And then when we pass, we just go back to where we come from. We go back to the divine spark of who we are, source, afterlife, or whatever you want to call it. Because we're everybody here on this earth has all got a divine spark. And we all come from source and we're all going to go back to source.
okay, nice. So when, going back to relationships, somebody might be saying to their friend or a family member going, oh, you're just too picky and, you'll never meet that one.
Do you know what, Ray? I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to be as picky as I please, Adele, because do you know what, right?
It sounds like you've heard this
You
before.
know that it's being too picky, right? You know something? I deserve the best. So therefore, I am going to be as picky as I want. You know, so that is basically saying to me that I've just got to settle for anyone,
Yeah.
right? No, right? I settle for what I deserve. And I
Yeah.
deserve the best. You know, it's got nothing to do with what that person looks like. Again, it's a soul connection, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, if you haven't got that soul connection there, it means it's, you know, it's like any relationship, whatever you want to class that relationship as, karmic, soulmate, twin flame, that person is there to help us learn and grow. And if you're not with somebody, it means that you're just having to do that part of the journey on your own. But the thing is, what people do not understand, right, is that we come into this world on our own, right? And it is a journey. And then when we pass back to spirit, we go back to where we come from.
Okay. Well, I mean, talking all things to do with love, we've obviously got Valentine's Day coming up on Friday. Whether the listeners will hear this before or after Valentine's Day, what's your thoughts on the energy around that time for people's love lives?
Right. Well, you know something? We're in the energy of the 9 year, right? So the thing is, it's all about new beginnings. You know, twin flames this year, we're all coming in to like sort of reconnecting again. So evidently, all I'm going to say to people is expect the unexpected, because who knows, right? It can literally be a case of you go out there, you know, on Friday evening and you could just meet your twin flame, or you could meet your soulmate and you could end up, you know, getting married and being very happy with them for the next 20 years, you know, and you just don't know what's around the corner. So I always say to people, right, if they're single, right, do not see it as a negative. It is actually quite a positive thing, because when you are single, You can face your own shadow. Not everybody is ready to do that, right? Get rid of the karmic baggage that you've been holding on to so that when you do go into a relationship, you're not bringing all the baggage with you, right? But then again, still expect challenges because you're with that person for as long as you need to be with them in order to grow spiritually.
And that's another good thing you just mentioned there about baggage. You know, when we do get hurt and we do get knocked down, we can get very defensive and often take that into the new relationship where we judge them for being, you know, a similar person to that person they were once with. And maybe sometimes even mistakenly, you know, overreact because of a trigger that we've been through with somebody else.
Yeah, but that's not their stuff, that's your stuff, Adele. Right?
Yes, no, absolutely.
You
But
have
how do
just
they work through that? How do they stop that from happening if
well,
they're
again,
people?
it's about facing your own shadow, but unfortunately, not everybody wants to face their own shadow. And there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, who have got a lot of codependency issues as well. So if you see that woman or man that is always got to be in a relationship, even if they know that person is not good for them, that is nothing to do with the person that they're with. That is their stuff. That
Mm,
is because they need to be in a relationship with anyone,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because that's something that if a lesson that they've got to learn, maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But then again, right, we all have a soulmate, we all have a twin flame, but the more that we can work on our karmic baggage and the more that we can release that baggage, then the more chance we have at some point of reconnecting with our divine counterpart, right? But again, it's like I always say to people, expect the unexpected, because the thing is, life is a funny old thing, right? And if we didn't meet people and we didn't have relationships, yeah, we wouldn't be able to have that necessary soul growth, would we?
Absolutely. So, do you believe in true love?
Yes, I do.
Hmm.
But I also know that the primary relationship that I have got with anybody is self love.
Hmm.
So I always say to people, right, if you want to have that relationship, then get the relationship right with yourself. It is an old cliche, but self love and self acceptance is the key to any lasting relationship. Because if you think about it, the only person that we come into this life with is us. And the only person that we're going to come out of this life or this matrix or 3D concept or whatever you want to label it is us, right? So we get the relationship right with us, right? And love us for who we are. It's not a case of looking in the mirror and saying, oh, aren't I gorgeous, right? It's a case of just having that peace within yourself and knowing your self-worth and knowing, right, that you are worth loving. And you know what? Somebody will reflect that back to you.
Oh, Claire, we are going to leave it there because that's a great way to finish this podcast and a great one to start off on the next one, self-love. So, Claire, it's been amazing speaking to you today. Thank you so much for clearing up all the soulmate and twin flame questions that people might be having on their mind at this moment in time. And of course, you are available to speak to on Ask the Answer. What is your PIN number?
My pin is 500699.
Lovely. And how often
And
are you on,
I'm
Claire?
on. You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure, Adele. Pink is really your colour, and let's just keep that love vibration.
Pink to make the boys wink, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? I always say to everybody, just do not give up, right? Do not give up on relationships, right? There is always, if it's not working, then go away, go back to the drawing board and just, get the relationship right with you. And the
Yeah.
thing is, at some point, it will happen and you will get what you want.
Absolutely. And Claire, how often are you on the phone lines for if we want to get hold of
I'm
you?
gonna be on tonight. I'm gonna be on, like, I'm pretty much available on weeknights and weekends, so they
Perfect.
can catch me anytime on a week, especially on a weekend, right?
Love.
Because it's busy.
Claire, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy your week and we will catch up again very soon, no doubt.
All right, no problem. Lots
Take
of love,
care.
Adele. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and save to your library. Remember, there are 100 psychic readers available on our website for readings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To triple your credits on your first purchase, visit asktheanswer.com and click on the new customer offer banner.